Peasant Productions presents the math of ESP, why it works even if you don't believe in it. Okay, kind of putting forth some of the stuff of how the free will effect in this idea of how this town especially, but just life in general on this planet for 1700 years has been in the tell a lie and then keep telling lies, you know, type of a thing. It doesn't really matter which government you want to go see. I mean, when you create a religion, you are removing the essence of the individual being able to be in connection with the spiritual realm. You are saying you must come and get the approval of the shaman, the cleric, the priest, the pope, the imam, the rabbi, whatever you want to go to, the witch, El Diablo himself, if you want to believe that way. The thing is that you have to go and get somebody's permission to be connected. And anybody that is actually connected to the spiritual realm will tell you straight up, it is your personal thing. It is never, ever somebody else's choice. You might choose not to get killed and accept conversion and hope that the person actually gives you that exit. But otherwise, it doesn't. You're not going to convert. You might, it would be like me in the mental institution prison of California in 2006. I was confronted by at least a dozen doctors in a room and told, you shut up about your human rights, or we're going to strap you down and kill you. And the one doctor that was actually assigned to me made that statement a couple of times to me, and one time it was literally that bold and blunt in my face that I would never ever remember my name after he got through strapping me down onto a table and pumping me full of drugs. That's killing. Okay? When you are threatened, your life is threatened, you better believe that I did not convert to what he was, but I did tell him what he wanted to hear and what everybody else wanted to hear. So I got out of prison. I did my parole. It takes at minimum 13 months to be on parole and walk away. 13 months after I was released, my parole ended. I stayed clean. I stayed out of trouble. I stayed away from absolutely everything possible. I made certain that I was out of their system as fast as possible. Okay, so I didn't convert to them. I just simply protected myself. Okay, so there's a big difference. That's where free will comes in, protecting yourself. Okay, but the idea also, let me get my notes here. But the idea also kind of plays around in other stuff here, because like I say, these people, they 400 years. They have been practicing a lie to tell to the public. They put on display. They do all this wonderful stuff. They bring in all this big money. They get all of these tourists. I mean, 9 to 12 million tourists a year in this town of 50,000. That's quite a few people and quite a bit of income. And I guarantee you a large portion of it goes directly into the church coffers. But the thing is, I mean, that's what peasants do. They come here to make their donations because it's for them more spiritual, okay? And I'm not going to argue it because each spirit is going to look inside the hearts of those people. But you also have to stop and think about for a minute the idea that most of this town, by free will, choose not to read their own Bible. So the idea that they violate and blaspheme their God, their religion, the Holy Spirit, the spiritual realm at all, and they go so far as, I had a group of guys living down, whose family, I'll put it at family, I'm not certain. I want to say that a couple of them were actually brothers the sons, I should say. The two were brothers, and I'm pretty certain that they were the sons of the man who runs the ice cream thing down, Regina ice cream thing down the street here. But they kind of did this thing about how they were, native Aztec, and really all into that and everything. And the first time that the guy started doing it, the first image that popped up in my head that was being transferred to me from him, that he was sending at me, was the Hollywood movies How, and it's Ahow, which I don't quite get quite right, I'm sure, but it's A-H-O, that is kind of a North American type of a Indian to Indian, well, First Nation to First Nation salute or hello or whatever type of a thing. I'm not quite certain on the translation, okay? I'm not going to stick my foot in my mouth and say it's absolutely this. I just know that it's something that's passed in and around. I use it quite a bit, the same as I might use Namtas, which is the Hindu or Indian kind of a blessing word type of a thing, good day, have a good day, may the gods be nice to you, whatever type of thing. But these people don't want to do anything. Now, you start thinking that, okay, fine, they don't want to read their book, they've got this little gig all rigged up, and that really doesn't affect anything else. It's actually just the opposite. Most of the people who are climate denial and most of the people who are pro-environment, climate concern only read their own stuff. They don't really go and read and listen to the other side. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going to be said. They don't understand what's what they're trying to argue against. And more importantly, they get so blindsided by only this narrow band that I've noticed that, like I said, I keep putting up this thing about how it's SO2 you should be worried about, because not only is it a human, greenhouse gas emission from your fuels that you use for electricity, power plants are coal-fired, they're natural gas-fired, they're diesel fuel run, especially emergency generators. There's an awful lot of hospitals and skyscrapers and stuff that run diesel emergency generators. So if they have to start their systems up, they're pumping out SO2 as part of the exhaust. But you also have all these volcanoes. Now, rough guesstimate, in 2015 you had about 25 volcanoes actively spewing gases and lava on a daily basis. You now have, I believe it's 47 or 48 actively spewing, and some major eruptions going on. And if you don't stop and think about the fact that places like the sulfur geysers of Yellowstone, the sulfur pools of Europe, the spas and places like that are all emitting sulfur dioxide. If you do not include any of that factoring into what you're doing, you don't know where things are going, okay? You don't have any ability to even know how many of these geysers and hot springs and undersea volcanoes there are, because unless something makes a big blip big enough for some human to figure it out and turn a sensor on it, you don't know until until the thing just about breaking the surface of for a volcano. Look at that, a new island. A big eruption of a big earthquake. Oh, what's over here? Oh, look at this, we got a hot spot. Okay, but you have all of this acidic gases going into your oceans down there, which is acidifying your oceans, which is melting the bottoms of your seabeds everywhere and deteriorating life at a rapid rate. You have all the gaseous releases going into the atmosphere and creating the cooling of the upper atmosphere, the heating of the lower atmosphere. More moisture goes in, higher levels and higher, more intense changes from a hot to cold as these jet streams bounce up and down, like you're seeing in the United States right now. It's going from flooding to sub-zero temperatures, and there's going to be sheets of ice where there used to be cities based on what they're showing. The highway 70, through 5 states or something like that. They're showing it's going to rain, then it's going to ice, then it's going to snow, which means you're talking, a couple of thousand miles of literally slick ice, for a main highway thoroughfare. So there's a lot of problems, and don't forget, ice gets inside or rain gets inside of cracks. You then have the freezing effect, which then cracks, and that's how mountains break down and such. So yes, your highways will also do the same thing, your buildings will do the same thing, and especially at sub-zero temperatures, you're going to see some stuff break down. And don't even be surprised if you start seeing pieces of old buildings break off in different places. But you have all of this of absolute refusal to look at anything but one narrow band of data, and it does, and I mean, I get it all the way across to everything, and it's kind of amusing because if you stop and think about it, what's Watson? Watson is a super smart, intelligent computer. How did you make it? Oh yeah, you put 1,300 libraries of knowledge into computer code for it to access. More data makes more smart in a computer, but in a human, less data makes more smart. Trump's really smart because he never really learned how to go to school and behave himself. Yeah, so that's why I say it's amusing. But Trump is doing a good job, by the way. I have to admit, he's doing a very good job. He was understood as a circus clown. He used to get up there and cause a whole lot of noise and rhetoric and this and then that, and he's a sacrificial goat, no problem. And he's doing a beautiful job of being the absolute bumbling fool, because 99% of everybody I talk to is way too busy either nitpicking on him or nitpickingly standing up for him. Okay, it goes both directions, but yeah, as far as I can see, I mean, if I get outside of the U.S., sure, then it's other issues that people are discussing. That's not a problem. But United States people, yeah, you're way too caught up on the bumbling buffoon in the center of the three-ring circus, and you're missing out on what's happening everywhere else, and you're behaving just exactly like this town of 400 years of lying. They're so arrogant that instead of telling yourself it's time to change your behavior, you're telling yourself it's time to tell another lie to protect my social status. Oh, I'm so great, I have to keep telling lies. It's like the guy here in town that told me he was so big and important and had such a big ego in town, such a big reputation, that I was to jump in bed with some girl that he told me to jump in bed with. I'm a little 12-year-old, and keep doing it to her until he tells me I can stop. Wow. That's pretty arrogant, folks. That's pretty arrogant to tell somebody else that they have to go and jump in on somebody and have sex with them just because you got a big ego. But needless to say, that's what America is. I mean, the Reagan era is, I got my piece of pie, to heck with you and yours. So, anyway, Occupy ISS. What is today? Today is the 58th day of being here alive and hanging in. It's a blood moon, and it's a lunar eclipse, and we're going to be having fun tonight. Definitely going to be looking at that list in front of you and wondering what the heck is going to come of my future and what I'm going to witness and what I'm maybe not going to see too. So have a good day.